Okay, round 7 of the 2025 NRL season is now completed. What a 5-day fantastic Easter weekend we've had. That's really shaken up the NRL season. There are some teams that are performing better than expected. There's some real good surprises. There are some teams, I think, about where we as fans and predicted where they would be, and some other teams, their season is already gone. Their season, and it's been an interesting first 2 months to start the season since Vegas. Some really interesting storylines have already come out of this season. So without any further ado, let's dive in. The Sea Eagles and the Dragons was the first game of the weekend. The Sea Eagles losing 20 points to 18 at home. The Dragons, they're starting to build now, and there's still a lot of room for improvement for the Red V, but they're starting to build some momentum now. I think that win against the Storm was the starting point. The Sea Eagles, since Cherry Evans has basically announced that he's leaving, their season has derailed, and Tom Trbojević's injury, they're starting to trend in the wrong direction, whereas the Dragons, they're starting to build that little bit of momentum and look difficult to play against. In all honesty, the Dragons are starting, as I say, to build some momentum, and I think that change in momentum with the Dragons started with that shock win at the time over the Storm. So the Dragons getting a good win away from home. The Sea Eagles, another worrying defeat, and there is a trend here with the Sea Eagles that their season could fast unravel, and a lot has been said about the Cherry Evans contract saga, as we'll call it. Is that starting to impact the side, but also the Trbojević injury as well to Tom. The win percentage without him is not great. So there's definitely a psychological aspect in regards to Tom Trbojević not being able for selection, and the Cherry Evans contract saga. But they're not the only club with a contract saga that I think is derailing or has the potential to derail a season. So the Dragons building some momentum. Still not a perfect win, still a lot of room for improvement, but it's a good positive sign for Shane Flanagan. They are trending in the right direction. The Bulldogs Rabbitohs, 32 points to 0 to the Bulldogs, and a record crowd for a regular season game, over 65,000 at Accor Stadium. The Bulldogs are the real deal this season. Let's not kid ourselves. They are the real deal this season. That was an emphatic win against the Bunnies. A lot of people were saying last season was a one-off. They're going to come back to earth. They have shown no signs as of yet of slowing down, and the last time they started a season this good, I think, was 1938, and they subsequently went on to win the grand final that season. The Bunnies, I think they've run out of steam a little bit. I think this is where they're at now. They are showing some worrying signs of where they're trending. I think while they are better than last season, and there has been improvements made with Wayne Bennett's return, I think they're still not quite a top 8 side. There are still issues with where certain players are going to play in that lineup. Latrell Mitchell, it's obvious he is best suited at left centre. Jai Gray is now the starting fullback. It doesn't work with Latrell Mitchell in the halves, so that it sort of is making Wayne Bennett's selections a bit easier. At the same time, that was not a great performance by the Bunnies, but the Bulldogs, they are looking scary. Their attack is finally clicking. Which they were showing some signs of promise that the attack was building last season. This season, their attack has really kicked on, and scarily, their defence is really good. They're showing all the signs of being a Premiership side. Let's not kid ourselves. This Bulldog side is going to be a top 4 side, and they are my pick, I think, to be an underdog, a dark horse to not only make the grand final but win it at this point. The Dolphins Storm 42 points to 22. The Dolphins building some momentum, 40 unanswered points against the Storm. Now, while no side has won a grand final after conceding 50 points in a game, also, another thing, no side has won a grand final after conceding 40 unanswered points in a game, and that's what the Storm have just done. Some really worrying signs with the Storm. Some injuries as well, especially Harry Grant being out now on a long term for a good chunk of the season leading up to Origin. That's quite concerning. And a few little niggles for Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster as well. The Dolphins, on the other hand, much like the Dragons, they're starting to build some momentum now. They're getting more confident, and to score 40 points against the Storm, not every team can do that. It's very rare that a team can do that. That is a statement win from the Dolphins going forward. So with the way that they're building some momentum and the way they've started to play in the last month, They are a dangerous side and have the potential, if they can continue with this momentum, to make the top 8, and if not just the top 8, but potentially the top 4, if they can continue to build this momentum, keep a lot of their side fit, which is crucial. They have got some injuries to deal with, like Marshall King, for example, is recovering from a leg injury, so they haven't got their first choice hooker. That is what's scary about this, is they're missing some players, so not everyone's fully fit. I think their forward pack is a little bit weaker than last season, just saying, but they can put in a statement win like that. Has put the rest of the competition on notice, in my opinion. The Storm look human. Melbourne Storm looking human. The Warriors Broncos, the most bizarre golden point game. 20 points to 18 to the Warriors. The Warriors' home form is going to prove crucial to their top 8 chances. The Broncos are starting to show a few warning signs that they're not quite over last season's collapse, or for that matter, the defeat in that grand final a couple of years ago. There's still a lot of room for improvement for the Broncos, and now there's starting to be some injury concerns for some players. Like Reece Walsh has come out of this game with an injury. Most bizarre golden point. They fluff the kickoff, and then Luke Metcalf pings it from 50 metres. I mean, if Metcalf doesn't have the legs on that, it could have been a very interesting golden point. The Broncos, still a work in progress. While they have got the ability on their day to score a lot of points and be very, very exciting in attack, there's still a lot of inconsistency in the Broncos game. The Warriors, their home form, as I say, is going to prove crucial. They're not an easy out down in Auckland. Their away form is what's got to have to really improve significantly, but so far to start the season, the Warriors are looking good. Following that defeat in Vegas, they've looked quite good to start the season. They're not going to win every game, but the Warriors are really proving that last season was an aberration. I think they are a top 8 side, and they need to be a little bit more consistent. Still not a perfect performance. They let that game get away from them a little bit and allowed the Broncos back into the game. So their game management needs to be a little bit better for a whole 80 minutes. But the Warriors are putting in some statement wins themselves. That last year was an off season for them, and that if injuries permitting, they can keep as many of their staff. And they're doing this without Fisher Harris, who's out injured at the moment. When they get Fisher Harris back, they're going to be a lot more lethal with the forward pack. So they've just got to manage their season whilst they're getting through some injuries in key areas. But the Warriors are putting, again, the competition on notice. The Broncos are having a little bit of an iffy spell. They're sort of not treading water, but it looks like they're stuck in treacle a little bit. But now the Broncos have got a headache, and Michael Maguire's got a headache with Reece Walsh, his starting fullback, now out injured, and the Ezra Mam situation, when how they slot him back into the side. The Roosters Panthers, two sides that have really struggled to start the season. The Panthers have won 40 points to 12, and that second half performance was scary. It was like the Panthers haven't lost 5 in a row after the Vegas game. The first half was a little bit scrappy. Second half, they destroyed the Roosters, and they needed a bit of confidence. They needed something just to ignite them. While there's still issues, and the Panthers still do have problems to solve, their defence was significantly improved. And that has been a real concerning point to start the season, is their defence. They're still in the bottom 3 to end the round. There's still a lot of room for improvement, but that second half was scary. Their attack finally started to click. Those combinations finally started to click. I do think there's still going to be lineup changes and lineup shuffles, and that Ivan Cleary is going to have to look specifically at that forward pack and potentially to the outside backs with some tweaks to the formation. There are some players out injured. I can still see, however, some changes made in the forward pack, I think, to freshen things up a little bit, get players on their toes and competing for positions. I wouldn't be surprised to see players like Maverick Gaia, for example, to get brought in to that forward pack. Kenny's going to be out suspended for a couple of games. He was put on report, so Schneider might get a little run in the side and the spine as well, a little for a couple of games. I can, as I say, see some changes, but that was a real positive response to a tough period that the Panthers have had. But that was the toughest period the Panthers have had for over a decade. I think they are going to solve some of the problems. Defensively, they were a lot better. Well, the Roosters side of things, they could be wooden spoonists. The Roosters have a lot of issues now. Nia Quasi, I think, is a bright spot, I think, for the Roosters. Nia Nwanga Quanatwaze, or whatever his name is, in the centres, but the Roosters have a lot of thinking, and Trent Robinson, I think, is up against it this year. This is like a 2016 vibes for the Roosters. The Panthers, potentially, if they can get on some momentum, could make the top eight. But both sides, in theory, could make the top eight if they go on a run. But neither side is a top four side, and I cannot see the Panthers making the grand final. They've lost too much ground to their rivals. The Roosters the same. The Roosters was one of the top eight sides from last year that I could see missing the top eight this year. I am surprised with how the Panthers have started the season, but that second half, that I think will give the Panthers team a lot of confidence. I still think there's a few lineup tweaks that Ivan Cleary could make. There are some players coming out of round 7 that are going to be missing round 8 through injury and or suspension. So there's going to be some forced changes for the Panthers. But I think that second half is the solution that Ivan Cleary was looking for. But the way they played, it was like Vegas, and before it was like 2024 and 2023 Panthers. They really just strangled the life out of the Roosters and then took control. It was like they never had a 5-game losing streak. The Titans Raiders. The Titans, their inconsistency is so frustrating. They do have some injuries to contend with, and AJ Brimson, I think, is a weak link in the spine. They can't really shift him back to fullback. They can't really use him in the halves, but Campbell is out injured, and Kieran Foran is going to be coming back into the side, which I think will pose some headaches, for the coaching staff there at the Titans, for Des Hasler. The Raiders, they are one of the surprise packages this season. They're putting in some statement wins. A lot of people picked the Raiders to miss the top 8. I was one of them. As a Raiders fan, I'm surprised they're doing as well as they are. However, in saying that, they're starting to really build now. They've had a really solid start to the season. A couple of defeats in there, which was expected for this young side, but this is a young side that is playing with confidence. They're responding to defeats with some good wins. So I think Ricky Stewart can be very, very happy with how his young transitional squad, and I do believe the Raiders are a team that are in the middle of a rebuild in a transition period. How they're playing, these young players have just got no fear. They're playing very, very well, and the additions to the squad, these young, the young English players, for example, the young players that have come through the Raiders system, with that blend of experience, it's fun to watch. And it's going to be a fun journey for this Raiders side this season. I think they could definitely be a top 4 side, and they're another side that could potentially be a dark horse for they're not only the top 4 but a grand final. You just got that feel about this Raiders side that they're going to pull off some unexpected stuff, and they are performing a lot better than people anticipated. So the Raiders, very strong start to the season. The Titans, a frustrating stop-start to the season. They've got some injuries and suspensions now to deal with, and it's up to Des Hasler to figure out a solution to their problems. The Knights Sharks. The Sharks putting in a statement win, 34 points to 14 over the Knights. The Knights have problems. I think Adam O'Brien is one of those coaches. They are under significant pressure unless results start to change soon and players start performing soon. The Sharks, still not a full 80-minute performance, but a better performance than some of the other performances they've had this season. They're starting to get those wins while not putting in a full 80-minute performance. That last 10-15 minutes, they sort of eased up, and the Knights had a couple of easy tries in there. The Knights, some really concerning signs in attack. Their attack is just not functioning. So Adam O'Brien, in that sense, is under pressure. It was a very disjointed performance by the Knights, and then suddenly the last 10 minutes they decide to play. When the game is gone, they started to play after they've basically lost the game. The Sharks, I think there's still room for improvement. It was a bit of a scrappy performance at times, but at the same time, Stone Street, when Katoa comes back to full fitness, what do they do there? Because I think Stone Street has now nailed down his wing spot. It's going to be a difficult selection headache for Craig Fitzgibbon there. Stan Stone Street's had a brilliant start to his NRL career, and he continues to score multiple tries per game. His tries per game average is scary. His consistency is scary. There's still room for his improvement in his game, but as an out-and-out try scorer, he's starting to make a statement for himself, and that is going to pose a selection headache later on in the season. But for the rest of this season, while Katoa is still out on the injured list, I think he's nailed his position down. There are a couple of injury concerns for the Sharks going forward, but Nicho Hynes had a better game, which is important for his confidence. The Knights, however, are one of those teams that are in serious trouble, and their season is fast derailing in front of the Knights faithful up in Newcastle. The Tigers Eels has obviously been played today on Easter Monday. Right, Mitch Moses makes his return from the foot injury. The Eels win 38 points to 22. There's going to be some players suspended out of this game because there were some sin bins. I haven't watched the game in full, so you're going to have to bear with me on that. But Mitch Moses coming back into the side is a positive, although he was put on report for a challenge in the game. We've had sin binnings. The Tigers season could be derailed by Lachlan Galvin and what's going on with his contract negotiations, because that has really blown up over the last week following last week's win. The Tigers have been playing really well this season. This is the Tigers' worst performance of the season. The Lachlan Galvin contract saga, much like the Sea Eagles with Cherry Evans, this has the potential to derail all the hard work the Tigers have made in the off-season and so far to start this season under Benji Marshall. It's clearly created a rift between Lachlan Galvin and the rest of the playing squad. And we can look into Isaac Moses and his dealings as a player agent. The fact he's been deregistered more than once as a player agent is raising some eyebrows in regards to player agents and their role within the game, but specifically Isaac Moses, because this is not the first time he's had a player at a club where the outcome is, or the negotiations have become quite distracting. The Eels, Mitch Moses, good to have him back. It's been a really tough start for the season for the Eels. They've got a lot of work to try and fix a lot of the problems. Mitch Moses alone doesn't fix the Eels. He does make them better. He does make them better as a side. It is going to be interesting to see if he does get a suspension. He was put on report in this game. That's going to be interesting. And also if he can stay fit from here on out, how many more wins they can pick up. But it's been a disastrous start to the season for the Eels, but that's their second wins. There's a lot of sides now with 2 wins and either 4 or 5 losses to start the season, depending if they've had a bye. The Eels are one of those sides. It's getting very congested in the bottom half of the table now. The Tigers, however, as I say, the Lachie Galvin situation has the potential to completely derail all the hard work they've done in the off-season and to start this season, and how the team are playing to start this season, because they've been really entertaining to watch. They've been playing really well, and suddenly, following that win over the Knights, this week has been a disaster for the Tigers and has the potential to completely overshadow all the hard work the team has done with recruitment, with how the team is playing, with the confidence around the squad. The Lachie Galvin situation has the potential to completely derail all the hard work the Tigers have done in the off-season. But the West Tigers are the gift that continues to keep giving, regardless of from one season to the next. There is a reason why this team has failed to make finals for so long and has had all the crazy negative headlines, poor seasons, 3 wooden spoons. There's a reason why this club has been a bottom dweller for so long. The Cowboys had the bye in this round, so they get the 2 points for the bye, and round 8 they're going to have a refreshed squad for round 8, and they're starting to build some confidence and some momentum as well. So there we go. There's a round 7 review. Some really interesting results. Some teams, their seasons have already started to fall apart or are showing really worrying signs. Other teams finally breaking losing streaks. And then you've got teams like the Bulldogs and the Raiders, for example, and the Dolphins now, who are starting to build some momentum. The Bulldogs are the real deal, in my opinion. And whatever happens next weekend, they will still be top of the NRL ladder. And the last time they started a season like this, they went on to win the grand final. Admittedly, it was a very, 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 very long time ago, before World War II, but the last time the Bulldogs were this good to start a season, they won the whole thing. So there we go. And they were part of history again with the Rabbitohs, with that record crowd of over 65,000 at a core stadium. So they played in front of the biggest regular season crowd, and they're undefeated to start the season, and they're now starting to separate from the rest of the NRL ladder, with the Storm having that really shocking performance against the Dolphins. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.